The ruins were quiet. Too quiet. Wind whistled through the broken towers, carrying the smell of ash and burned stone. A human scavenger moved carefully between the shattered walls, his boots crunching over glass and dust. He had been searching all day, hoping to find something: tools, metal scraps, maybe food. But the city was dead, and everything inside felt cursed. The sun was low, painting the ruins red. Long shadows stretched across the cracked streets. The human's hand rested on the grip of his weapon, but his eyes kept scanning the corners. He knew he was not alone. The silence itself felt alive, as if something unseen was watching him. Then he heard it, a faint sound. Not the wind, not the stones shifting, something else. A soft gasp, like someone trying to breathe but failing. He froze, lowering his body against the wall. Slowly, carefully, he moved closer, every step cautious. The sound came again, this time with a weak sob. And then he saw her. Behind the remains of a collapsed wall lay a woman. Not human. Her skin carried a faint silver glow, her long hair tangled and covered in dust. Her body was thin, almost skeletal, and her arms shook as she tried to push herself up. Her lips were cracked. Her eyes, large, alien, glowing faintly blue, looked at him with fear and hunger. For a moment, both of them froze. He raised his weapon. She flinched, curling into herself like a child afraid of being struck. The human stared at her. She was not an enemy soldier. She looked more like a prisoner who had been forgotten here in the ruins. Her stomach growled, loudly. The sound broke the silence like a scream. Her face twisted in shame. She turned away, as if the simple sound of her hunger was something to be hidden. The human blinked. He reached into his pack. His hand touched the last thing he had saved for himself. A small piece of bread. Hard, dry, but still food. He stared at it for a long moment. It was all he had left. And then slowly he stepped forward. Her eyes widened in alarm. She tried to crawl back, but she was too weak. He knelt in front of her and held out the bread. For a few seconds she did not move. Her lips trembled. Her hands stayed frozen at her sides. "Take it," he said, his voice low. She looked at him as if she could not believe it. Then, with shaking hands, she reached forward. Her fingers brushed his, cold and trembling, before she pulled the bread close. She stared at it, tears filling her eyes, and then the tears fell. She broke into sobs, clutching the bread as if it were gold. Her whole body shook with every cry. She pressed the food to her lips, kissed it, then finally took a bite. Her teeth sank into it with desperation, and she ate like someone who had not tasted food in days. The human felt his chest tighten. He had seen hunger before, but not like this. Not from an alien woman who looked too proud to beg, yet too broken to hide her need. Her glowing eyes lifted to him, between bites, wet with tears. She tried to speak, but the words were broken, her voice weak. "Why?" she whispered. "Why would you?" The human had no answer. He only watched as she ate, as the ruins around them seemed to grow darker. Then footsteps. The sound echoed in the empty street. Heavy, metallic, and human. The human stiffened, raising his weapon. The woman froze, her tears vanishing into fear. She pressed her body flat against the wall, clutching the bread to her chest like it was the only thing keeping her alive. "They're coming," she whispered, her voice trembling. "Who?" he asked sharply, keeping his weapon ready. Her glowing eyes locked onto his. "Hunters." The sound of the footsteps grew louder. The human's heart pounded. The air itself seemed to tighten. Somewhere beyond the shadows, something was moving toward them. Something dangerous. The woman's hand reached out, gripping his sleeve. Her touch was cold, desperate. "They will kill me," she said. "And now, they will kill you too." Her words sank deep into him. For the first time, he realized that offering food had tied his fate to hers. The footsteps stopped. Silence. The human scanned the broken street, every nerve alive with tension. The ruins seemed to hold their breath. The alien woman's tears dried on her cheeks, leaving only fear in her glowing eyes. And then, from the shadows, a clicking sound echoed. Not human. A sound like claws tapping stone. The human tightened his grip on the weapon. The alien woman whispered one last word, her voice barely audible. Run. Asterisk. The clicking sounds faded. But the silence that followed was worse. The human kept his weapon raised, eyes locked on the shadows. Dust floated in the dying light, and every breath felt too loud. Yet nothing came forward. Only silence. He turned back. The alien woman still clutched the bread tightly, as if someone might rip it from her hands. Her glowing eyes darted from the ruins to his face. Fear etched into every line of her expression. Eat, he whispered, nodding at the bread. Her lips trembled. She took another small bite, slower this time, watching him with suspicion. She looked like she expected him to suddenly demand something in return. But he didn't. He just sat across from her, weapon resting on his knees, gaze scanning the ruins. The woman finally spoke, her voice hoarse. You should not have helped me, the human frowned. Why? Her eyes filled with something more than fear-shame. She lowered her gaze, as if the answer itself was heavy. Because kindness is dangerous here. They will smell it. They will follow it. He didn't understand, but her tone left no room for doubt. Whoever they were, she was terrified of them. She broke another piece of bread, hesitated, then did something unexpected. She pushed the broken piece toward him with her trembling hand. For you, she said softly. He blinked. It was mine already. Her lips quivered into something almost like a smile, but not quite. Then, share it again. Let it be equal. The human took the piece, surprised. She was starving, yet she was willing to give away part of her only food. That was no small gesture. In that moment, he realized this was not only hunger, it was pride. She did not want to be seen as a beggar. She wanted to show that she could give too. They sat in silence, both chewing slowly, listening for the sounds in the dark. After a while, he asked, "Who are you?" Her jaw tightened. She shook her head. No name. Not anymore. He leaned closer. Everyone has a name. She looked at him, then really looked. Her glowing eyes locked onto his with strange intensity. For a moment, she seemed about to answer. But then her face twisted with pain. She pressed a hand to her stomach, as if something inside was tearing her apart. The human leaned forward. You're hurt. She shook her head violently. Not wound, hunger. Too long without food. Too long running. He hesitated, then reached into his pack again. All he had left was a tiny flask of water. He placed it in her hands. Her reaction was almost worse than before. Tears filled her eyes instantly. She lifted the flask with trembling fingers, staring at it as if it were the most precious thing in the universe. Then, carefully, she sipped. Just a drop at first, then another, until she finally allowed herself to drink. When she lowered the flask, her lips were wet, her eyes shining brighter. Why? She whispered again. The human didn't answer. He didn't have one. And then she leaned closer, lowering her voice. You must leave me, he frowned. Leave you? She nodded quickly, desperation in her voice. They hunt me. Anyone near me. They die. I cannot stop it. Her words carried a weight he couldn't ignore. But still, something inside him refused to move. He shook his head. I don't leave people to die. For the first time, her mask cracked. Her glowing eyes widened, shimmering with something new, not fear, not hunger, but disbelief. She stared at him, as if no one had ever spoken those words to her before. Her lips parted, but before she could speak, the clicking sound returned, louder, closer. This time, the human knew they were surrounded. The alien woman's face turned pale. She clutched his arm, whispering with urgency. "If they find me, they will not kill me quickly. They will make me scream until the stars fall, and you. They will break your body piece by piece." The human gritted his teeth, scanning the dark street. He could already see movement in the corners, shadows shifting unnaturally, glowing eyes staring back. He raised his weapon. "Then they'd better not find us." The alien woman's hand tightened on his sleeve. Her whisper was filled with both fear and fragile hope. "Why risk yourself for me, human?" He glanced at her, then back to the shadows. His voice was steady. "Because you cried over bread." The words struck her like a blade. Her lips trembled again, but she said nothing. Instead, she pressed her forehead against the wall, tears falling silently, while the clicking grew louder in the darkness around them. The clicking grew louder. It wasn't footsteps like a man's, it was sharper, uneven, as if claws tapped against stone. The air itself felt thicker with every echo. The human crouched lower, his weapon steady, his heartbeat quick. The alien woman pressed her back against the broken wall, clutching the last of the bread to her chest. Her glowing eyes darted to the shadows, wide with terror. She knew this sound. Then came a hiss. Not from one direction, but many. The human's eyes scanned the ruins. Between the broken archways and shattered statues, he saw them shapes moving, crouched low, crawling along walls like insects. Their bodies glinted faintly in the dying sunlight. Armored and inhuman. Hunters, he had heard rumors. Soldiers bred for one purpose, to track and kill. They weren't like ordinary soldiers. They were more beast than being, silent of the moment they struck. Now, their clicking claws echoed all around him. The human's grip on his weapon tightened. One hunter stepped into the open. Its head turned unnaturally, twisting until both glowing eyes locked on the human. The creature's jaw split open with a low, rumbling growl. The alien woman gasped. She grabbed the human's arm, pulling him down lower. "Do not shoot," she whispered urgently. "Not yet. They want you to fire first. Then they'll swarm." He glanced at her. "What do you suggest?" She swallowed hard, her body trembling. Stillness, silence, like stone. If they don't smell fear, sometimes they pass. But her own body betrayed her. She was trembling too much. Her breath came too fast. The hunters turned their heads toward the sound, like wolves scenting prey. The human acted quickly. He reached out, covering her mouth gently with his hand. Her glowing eyes widened, shocked. His other hand rested firm on her shoulder, steadying her. "Breathe slow," he whispered into her ear. With me, her body stiffened, but she obeyed. Slowly, her breathing began to match his quiet, controlled. For the first time since he had found her, her trembling eased. The hunters crawled closer, claws scraping stone. One passed only a few feet from them, its body towering, its armor black and gleaming like wet iron. The stench of blood and oil clung to it. The creature paused, sniffing the air, its eyes narrowing, the human's heart hammered. His finger hovered on the trigger. But he held still. The alien woman pressed her face against his chest, muffling even her breath. For a few terrible seconds, time froze. Then the hunter clicked again and turned away. The others followed, crawling across the ruins like shadows come to life. Within moments, the sound of claws faded into the distance. Silence returned. The human exhaled slowly, lowering his weapon. The alien woman pulled back from him, her glowing eyes shimmering in the half-light. For a long moment, she just stared at him. Her lips parted, but no words came. Finally she whispered, "You steadied me." He gave a small shrug. "You would have done the same." She shook her head slowly. "No one ever steadied me before." Her voice cracked at the last word. She turned away, ashamed of the tears threatening to fall again. But before she could hide, the human spoke. "What are they?" he asked. Her face tightened. "Hunters. My people created them. To hunt traitors. Traitors? She hesitated, then looked at him with haunted eyes. Me. The word hung in the air like a curse. The human frowned. Why? She bit her lip, her hands curling into fists. Because I refused to kill. Because I saw children in the city we were ordered to burn. And I could not raise my weapon. So they marked me. They starved me. They unleashed the hunters. The human's chest tightened. The mystery was no longer just hunger. This woman wasn't only running from danger, she was running from her own people. Before he could speak, a sound cut through the silence again. A new sound. A long metallic screech, like iron dragging across stone. The alien woman's face drained of color. No. She whispered, "What now?" The human asked, weapon ready again, her glowing eyes locked onto his wide with dread. The hunters did not leave. They circled, now. They drive us into the nest. The ruins trembled with the screeching sound. Dust fell from the broken walls. In the shadows, the glowing eyes of the hunters reappeared, this time, surrounding them completely. The ruins shook with the screeching sound. Shadows moved on every wall, the hunters circling tighter, their claws clacking like steel teeth against stone. The human's pulse thundered in his ears. The woman clutched his arm, her glowing eyes wide, terror written across her face. "There is no way out," she whispered, her voice breaking. The human scanned the dark streets. He could see the hunters forming a ring, glowing eyes flickering in the twilight. They weren't rushing forward yet. No, they were herding, driving him and the woman exactly where they wanted. "Then we make a way," he muttered. He fired. The blast of his weapon cracked the silence, sparks lighting the broken street. One hunter shrieked, collapsing into smoke. But the moment he pulled the trigger, the others surged forward. The woman screamed. The human grabbed her hand and ran, weaving through shattered alleys, broken beams crashing down behind them. Hunters crawled across walls like spiders, clicking and hissing, their shadows stretching in every direction. They stumbled into an old temple, its ceiling half collapsed. The walls were etched with alien symbols, glowing faintly in the dark. The woman froze, her breath catching. "No," she whispered. "Not here. What is this place?" The human asked, pushing her forward. She looked at him with eyes full of shame. "This was my father's temple," he frowned. "Your father?" She nodded slowly. "High Commander of the Dominion Fleet, the one who ordered the burning of this city." The words hit the human like a punch. His grip on his weapon tightened. He looked around at the destroyed walls, the broken statues, the carved faces of gods defiled with fire. Thousands had died here, and she? She was the daughter of the man responsible. The woman's face twisted, tears falling. I begged him to stop. I stood before him. I said children still lived here. He called me weak. He called me unworthy of my bloodline. Her voice cracked into sobs. When I refused to give the order, he named me traitor. He starved me, hunted me, cast me out like dirt. These hunters, they are his gift to me. His daughter. The human stared at her, stunned. She wasn't just a refugee. She wasn't just an alien in need. She was the bloodline of the enemy, the heir of a man who had slaughtered thousands. "Why tell me now?" he asked, his voice low, her glowing eyes locked onto his. "Because you deserve the truth before you die beside me." The words echoed in the ruined temple. For a moment, silence stretched between them until the hunter's screeches shattered it again. The human moved to the door, weapon ready. "You think I'll die here?" The woman's lips trembled. "Everyone who stands near me does." He turned back, his voice sharp. "I'm not everyone." For a heartbeat, something flickered in her eyes, not fear, not shame, but something closer to hope. She opened her mouth, as if to answer, but the ceiling above them cracked. Stone rained down as hunters crashed through the roof, their armored bodies gleaming in the faint temple light. They landed with a hiss, surrounding them. The woman backed against the broken altar, clutching the last of the bread as if it could protect her. Her glowing eyes burned with tears. She whispered one final word, "Father." The human spun toward her, confused. What? And then he understood. One hunter stepped forward. Its armor was marked with golden lines, its glowing eyes brighter than the rest. It was not just a soldier. It was marked with the insignia of command. The alien woman's face twisted in pain. He sent his best. To bring me home. Dead or alive. The human raised his weapon, jaw clenched. The truth was revealed, and now the fight for survival would begin. The temple shook as hunters closed in. Their claws scraped across the stone floor, their glowing eyes narrowing on the two figures cornered at the altar. The human kept his weapon raised, back pressed to the broken wall. Breathing hard, the alien woman stood frozen beside him, her face pale. The golden-marked hunter, the leader, stepped forward. Its voice was harsh, metallic, yet strangely clear. "Return." "Daughter." The human's chest tightened. He glanced at her. "Daughter." So it was true. The woman's lips trembled. She shook her head slowly, whispering, "I will not go back. I would rather starve than serve again." The leader hissed, lifting its claw. "Then you will die here." With him, the circle of hunters moved closer. The human's finger hovered on the trigger. But in his mind, a storm raged. This was not his war. He had stumbled into the ruins looking for scraps, not battles with alien commanders. He could leave her now, run, vanish into the rubble while the hunters dragged her away. It would be the smart choice. The safe choice. His eyes flicked to her. She stood trembling, clutching the empty flask and a piece of stale bread like relics. She looked fragile, broken, yet defiant. Tears streamed down her silver-streaked cheeks, glowing faintly in the temple light, and he remembered the moment she cried over bread. The sound of it. The raw pain in it that no one had ever cried like that in front of him before. The human clenched his jaw. He lowered his weapon slightly, then looked at her. "You said everyone dies near you," he whispered. "Maybe that's true. But I'm not leaving you to die alone." Her glowing eyes widened, disbelief flashing across her face. Why would you choose this?" He gave a bitter smile. "Because someone needs to." Before she could answer, the hunters lunged. The human fired. The blast tore through the closest hunter, shattering its armor. He shoved the woman behind the altar, rolling as another claw slashed down where his head had been. Stone cracked under the strike. The leader let out a metallic roar. The hunters swarmed. The woman screamed his name, not his real name, but the first sound she could manage, a broken echo of what she had heard from his lips before. She tried to run forward, but the human pushed her back with one hand, firing with the other. "You want her?" He shouted at the hunters. "You'll have to tear her from me." The temple filled with fire and shadow. Screeches echoed as hunters fell, but more poured in through the broken ceiling. The human's chest burned, his arms shaking with every shot. The alien woman crawled to his side, clutching a broken piece of stone as if it were a weapon. "I can fight too," she cried. He shook his head, pulling her close for one heartbeat of silence amid the chaos. His voice was rough, urgent. "No, you can live. That's how you fight." Her tears spilled again. She pressed her forehead against his shoulder, whispering, "If you die for me, I swear your name will never be forgotten." The hunters shrieked louder, circling. The leader raised its claw for the killing blow. The human tightened his grip on his weapon. His choice was made. If he fell, it would be standing between her and the monsters her own father had sent. And as the claw came down, the alien woman's glowing eyes flared with sudden light brighter than before, fierce and wild. She screamed, a sound that shook the stones themselves. The hunters froze. Something inside her had awakened. The scream ripped through the temple like thunder. The hunters froze mid-lunge, their claws trembling in the air. The alien woman's glowing eyes blazed brighter than fire, flooding the ruined walls with pale blue light. Cracks spread across the stone floor beneath her bare feet, as if the ground itself shivered at her cry. The leader staggered back, its golden-marked armor flickering with sparks. A hiss erupted from its throat, not of fear, but of recognition. She awakens. It snarled. The human grabbed her arm. "What did you just do?" Her voice was broken, raw, as if the screen had torn her from inside. I don't know. It was never meant to happen. My bloodline." Her words cut off as another wave of hunters screeched. The glow in her eyes dimmed, leaving her swaying like she might collapse. "Move!" The humans shouted. They ran. The temple exploded into chaos. Hunters leapt from the walls, claws slicing through air, crashing down where they had stood moments before. The human fired into the shadows, his blast sparking off black armor. He dragged her through a side archway, broken pillars toppling as they stumbled into the open night. The city ruins stretched ahead, endless streets of ashen stone. Behind them, the hunters poured out of the temple like a living tide. Their screeches filled the night sky, echoing across the dead city. The chase had begun. The woman struggled to keep up, her body frail, her legs weak. But her hand gripped his with surprising strength, refusing to let go. Every time she stumbled, he pulled her forward. Every time he slowed, she pushed herself harder. The human glanced back. Dozens of glowing eyes closed in behind them, crawling across walls, leaping from rooftops, their claws sparking as they scraped stone. "They won't stop," she gasped. "They will run until the stars burn out. Then we run faster," he growled. They darted through alleys, climbed shattered stairways, leapt over broken bridges. The hunters followed, relentless. The night became a blur of breath, fire, and stone. At one point, a hunter dropped in front of them, blocking the path. The human raised his weapon, but before he could fire, the alien woman's eyes flared again. A sudden shockwave burst from her, invisible but powerful, slamming the hunter into the wall with bone-cracking force. She collapsed against him, trembling. "I can't control it." He steadied her, pulling her close for a heartbeat as claws scraped closer behind. "Then don't, just survive." They ran again. Every turn led them deeper into the ruins, the hunters always one step behind. Dust clouds rose around them, shadows leapt across the walls, and the city seemed to close in like a maze built for the hunt. Finally, they burst into an open courtyard, lit by the faint glow of alien runes carved into the ground. The woman gasped, her knees buckling. "This place, what is it?" the human asked, pulling her toward the center, her glowing eyes filled with dread. "A feeding ground. They built it for the hunt. No way out once you're inside." The human's stomach dropped. He looked around. The courtyard had only broken archways, already filling with hunters crawling in from every direction. The trap was perfect. The leader stepped forward, its golden armor gleaming. "Run no longer. You are ours." The woman fell to her knees, too weak to rise. She lifted her face toward the human, tears mixing with the faint glow of her skin. "I told you. Everyone near me dies." The hunters closed in. The human planted his feet beside her, weapon raised, eyes blazing with defiance. "Not tonight." The woman's glowing eyes flared again, brighter than before, this time not from fear, but from rage, and the ground beneath them began to hoo. The courtyard hummed. The carved runes beneath their feet lit up, glowing with a cold blue fire. The human gripped his weapon, eyes darting between the encircling hunters. Their claws clicked against the stones, their jaws opening with low hisses, hungry and sure of victory. The alien woman knelt weakly, her glowing eyes brighter than ever. Her body shook as if something inside her was breaking free. The human knelt beside her, resting one hand on her shoulder. "Stay with me," he said firmly. She looked up, tears sliding down her cheeks. "I cannot control it." If it bursts, it will take you too. He met her gaze. Then let it. I'd rather burn here with you than walk away alone. Her breath caught. For a moment, her glowing eyes softened, shimmering with something more than fear. She whispered, "No one has ever chosen me." The hunters shrieked and charged out. The human fired, blasts tearing into the first wave. The courtyard erupted into chaos, stone cracking beneath claw strikes, sparks filling the air. He fought with everything he had, dragging the woman behind him, covering her with his body. Every strike, every shot was defiance, but the hunters were endless. The leader strode forward, golden armor glowing, claws raised high. "She belongs to the Dominion." It roared. The woman's eyes widened. Memories flooded back, her father's voice, cold and cruel, calling her weak. The screams of children in burning streets. The shame of being cast out. Something inside her snapped. She screamed again, but this time it was not fear. It was fury. The runes beneath her feet blazed, and the air cracked with raw energy. Light poured from her body, a wave that shook the ground. The hunters staggered, their claws digging into stone as the blast of power ripped through the courtyard. The leader howled, its golden armor shattering as it was hurled back into the ruins. The human shielded his eyes from the blinding light. "What are you?" he shouted over the roar. She stood slowly, her body glowing like living fire. Her voice shook with both rage and sorrow. "I am the blood of the commander, but I am not his weapon. One choose my own path." The hunters tried to rise, but the ground split open beneath them, swallowing their armored bodies into the glowing cracks. One by one, their screeches vanished into silence. When the light finally faded, the courtyard lay in ruins. Only the human and the alien woman remained, both trembling, both alive. She collapsed against him, her glow dimming. I thought I would kill you too." He caught her gently, pulling her close. "You saved me instead." For the first time, she let herself lean against him fully, her tears soaking into his shoulder. "No one has ever given me bread. No one has ever stayed." He smiled faintly, brushing the dust from her hair. "Then let this be the first time." They sat in the silence of the broken courtyard, surrounded by the dead city, bound not by war or blood, but by something stronger. Choice. Above them, the stars broke through the clouds. She looked up at them, her voice a whisper. "If we live through this, I want my people to know that a human's kindness is stronger than all my father's armies." The human held her tighter, his eyes scanning the horizon where new shadows might still rise. But for now, in the ruins, there was only quiet, and a bond no dominion could ever break. Asterisk.